Before we get started with this week's episode, I want to let you guys know we're currently selling our 2019-2020 academic planners. With a unique design, buttery pages, and the perfect size, this planner is perfect for the student, boss, or influencer. Head to the mintyboutique.com to check them out. Welcome to the TMB Women in Business podcast, created for the aspiring CEO. Every week, we provide you with tips on all things business and entrepreneurship. You'll hear from industry leaders on topics such as marketing, business growth, and branding. This podcast is hosted by Mahi Kolla, the 16-year-old teen entrepreneur behind the Minty Boutique, a luxe stationery company with a mission to change the world. Hi guys, welcome to season 2 of the TMB Women in Business podcast. I'm so glad you decided to listen in, and this episode is basically just episode 0, where I talk about what season 2 has in store, why I decided to make some changes to the podcast and the structure of it, as well as our regular uploading schedule. I will just start with what season 1 was and why I wanted to do a relaunch for the podcast. So, as you guys know, season 1 was really just me talking and teaching you guys what I learned from my business journey. I was more focused on just getting content out, and I got lost in that. I didn't have the opportunity to follow through with it, and every time it was on my to-do list, it got pushed off and I wasn't able to commit to it in season 1. As I said, I only really had solo episodes, but I did have Sophie come on and share about her company, and I loved hearing about that. And once I did that interview, I realized doing interviews and having those honest conversations where I could take someone else's story, weave it within what I had learned from my own business, and overall give you guys a more fulfilling experience was what I wanted to do. Another thing was, as I said, because I am a student, a junior year, I just finished junior year, I'm going into senior year. Both of these years are the busiest, most stressful of all of high school. And because I wanted to do the relaunch of the podcast, I wanted to make sure I was committed this time. I wanted to make sure an episode would be going up every week, and it would be consistent, and we would have really quality content instead of me just hopping on a mic and kind of saying something and leaving. So I wanted to wait until I had time during the summer to really plan this out, to figure out exactly what I wanted to do, how I wanted the podcast to be structured, who I wanted to interview, all of that. So I wasn't able to do it during the months of March, so basically spring, and summer came around. That's what I'm doing right now. I am recording this intro and I am interviewing so many amazing women on this podcast about their businesses, what they've learned in being an influencer and everything they're doing in the world. And I'm sharing those stories. And I've already had a few interviews before I record this. And you guys, I am so excited for this season. It is honestly so inspiring. Just sitting here and being part of the conversation for me is incredible. I cannot wait for you guys to listen in and learn something from their journeys, my journey, and hopefully apply it to your own journey as a business owner. So, yeah, season 2 will be all about empowering women to share their stories and tell the world what they've been working on and have honest conversations about struggles they've been facing and talk through them. One thing I learned as an entrepreneur very early on was that other entrepreneurs are going to become your best friend so fast, even if they're in a completely different industry, because they are an entrepreneur and they're going through the same struggles of getting customers. You can relate to them, and that's what I want to do. I want to have honest conversations where if they're having a struggle, we can talk through it and figure out what the best move and what to do from that. So that's what season 2 will be. The structure wise, we will be mostly focused on interviews. So mostly interviews. Every once in a while, I will post a solo episode where I do a very focused kind of like lesson, almost a lecture style, where I just have, like, for example, one of the ones that will be going up soon is 5 best business practices. That is just me telling you, here's number 1 through 5, and here's why they're important. And it's very straightforward. Conversation wise, it's a lot less conversation. I'll throw in a few, stories here and there because, for example, the business practices, I'd love to tell you guys kind of where I got that idea from, why I think a certain practice is really important, or how I have applied that to my own business, and that will help you. But I want to make it much more lecture style and keep the conversations to the interviews. So we will do those solo episodes. Um, and another touch that I wanted to really add to my podcast that was separate from the other podcasts that are out there, because a lot of people are doing podcasts where they're just interviewing women. As I said, I wanted it to be an honest conversation back and forth where they're allowed to share any struggles and not always be, yes, I've reached a success and I have done so well and there have been no struggles along the way. I want to hear those struggles. And I think it's really important for everyone listening to hear those struggles too. One other question that I will be asking all of our interviewees, something that's a signature to the TMB Women in Business podcast, is the one word question. It's the idea that I will ask you, what is one word or phrase that describes your business journey? And so far, the interviewees have had a bit of trouble with it. They take a few seconds to think of something because it's definitely hard to describe something that you've invested so much time into, money and everything, in just one word or one phrase. But that's what I think will be really cool to hear from all these women. So that will be a signature question to our podcast. And if you hear that question, it's from our podcast. I also wanted to answer that question. For me, my word, and you guys will kind of understand why as you continue hearing my story in season 2 and seasons to come. But my word is empowering. This journey has been so empowering, confidence wise, learning to be sure of myself and bet on myself. Take risks and know that I'm going to be okay has been so empowering. And not only that, but for example, this podcast and the whole TMB Women in Business nonprofit has been so empowering. And I hope empowering for you guys too, that these conversations empower you to do better and help you become a better entrepreneur and learn more. And so that's why I picked empowering. I would love to hear yours. Definitely leave us a review, and I would love to hear what yours is. So, next steps. Basically, today is July 6th. Sorry. Today is July 7th. Sorry, guys. We have another product actually launching July 6th, which is why I'm mixing them up. July 7th is the first episode, or episode 0, and episode 1 will go up. So, what you're listening to right now is episode 0. This is where I am just, as you guys know, I'm just talking about what the season will be like. But then episode 1 will be a solo episode, and I will be talking about what's happening on July 6th. So, as you guys just heard, we are launching our academic planners at the Minty Boutique. We're launching our 2019-2020 academic planners from August 2019 to July 2020. And this has been a project that I've been working on for such a long time. And I wanted to talk to you guys not only about the product, but also about my experience working with real manufacturers and putting that much kind of money down on something that I wasn't sure would work. And I want to talk to you guys about my experience and also why I decided to create planners like this, and why, just why. You guys can listen into that episode if you want to learn more about it. But yeah, creating a product and that whole experience was something that I would love to talk about. And if you're interested, just click on to the next episode and you will be able to listen to that story. My last announcement is I'm trying something new with email lists. So one thing I really wanted to do was create a community for the TMB Women in Business podcast listeners. And not only did I want to create a community, I wanted to be able to give something to you guys for every episode that you guys are listening to, because I love this podcast so much and I want to give back to you guys. So I have created an email list, which you can find and sign up for at tiny.cc/TMBWIB email. So in that email list, every week after the podcast for that week goes live, I will send out an email that recaps the episode that was just released. So that way, one thing I've learned, especially because the episodes right now so far are already like above 30 minutes for sure. Some are almost 50 minutes long. And it's so hard to listen to or just read the title and know like that's something I need for my business, or that's something I need to learn or I want to learn by just by reading the title. And all of us want to spend our time wisely. So if I can send you guys an email recap saying, here's what we actually talked about, here's the breakdown, here's what you will learn in today's episode, then I feel like I can give you guys a much better idea of what you'll get from the episode and hopefully convince you to listen to it and convince you that it is worth your time what we're talking about. I want to make sure that also, of course, you can always refer to these notes to learn or refer back to what we were talking about without having to re-listen to the whole episode. So for both purposes, for you guys to know what we talk about and also to refer back, I wanted to create this email list. We also have a Facebook group if you are interested in joining. In that Facebook group, it's just a community of female entrepreneurs who are listening to the podcast and who want to have a community that they can rely on in their journeys. So if you're interested, definitely join. And the email list, as I said, is at tiny.cc/TMBWIBEMAIL or tiny.cc/TMBWIBEM email. Sorry, guys. So tiny.cc/TMBWIB email. At that link, you can sign up for the email list and we'll send you a starter email just so you know that you are on the list. All right, I think those are all of my announcements. As always, I thank you so much, first of all, for listening and tuning in to this podcast. This has been such a passion project of mine, and I just love sharing these stories, and I think it really is important to share other stories so you can learn from their experience and what they've done in their time. And on that note, I would like to say thank you. Get excited for an incredible season 2 full of amazing, powerful, strong women who are ready to tell you all about their business journey. And I will see you guys in episode 1 where I talk about launching my academic planners. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the TMB Women in Business podcast. Check out our Instagram, where we provide you with the answers to all the questions you have about entrepreneurship. For an email recap of this week's episode, join our email list at tiny.cc/TMBWIBEMAIL. If you want to join a community of like-minded entrepreneurs where I give case-by-case advice to you, join our Facebook group. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you listen. If you're listening to this episode on our YouTube channel, subscribe and leave a comment. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you next week with even more business advice.